Imagine standing before a firing squad, thousands of miles from the palace where you were born, handing gold coins to your executioners so they wouldn't shoot you in the face. This was the end of Maximilian I, the only emperor of the Second Mexican Empire, a man who was promised a throne but was given a grave. To some, he was a well-meaning dreamer. To others, he was a puppet of European imperialism. But to history, he remains the abandoned emperor. The story of Ferdinand Maximilian Joseph begins in the opulent halls of Schönbrunn Palace in Vienna. Born in 1832 into the House of Habsburg-Lorraine, one of the most powerful dynasties in human history. He was the younger brother of Franz Joseph, who would eventually become the Emperor of Austria. From the moment he could walk, Maximilian was the Golden Prince. He was charming, artistic, and deeply romantic, a stark contrast to his stern, bureaucratic brother. While Franz Joseph was born to rule the ledger and the army, Maximilian was born to dream of the sea and the arts. Maximilian's early life was a pursuit of purpose in the shadow of a crown he would never inherit. He joined the Imperial Austrian Navy, a move that surprised the Viennese court and quickly rose through the ranks. He wasn't just a figurehead. He modernized the fleet and oversaw the creation of the naval port at Trieste. It was here, by the Adriatic Sea, that he built his sanctuary, Miramare Castle, a white stone masterpiece where he lived with his wife, Charlotte of Belgium. They were the ultimate power couple of 19th century Europe, young, beautiful, and intellectually restless. But Maximilian was a man without a kingdom, and in the game of European royalty, that was a dangerous thing to be. The mystery of how an Austrian prince ended up in Mexico begins with a conspiracy across the Atlantic. Mexico had been torn apart by decades of civil war, leaving the country bankrupt. When the Mexican president, Benito Juárez, suspended payments on foreign debts, the European powers saw an opportunity. Napoleon III of France had grand designs to create a Latin Catholic empire in the New World to rival the growing power of the United States. He needed a face for this empire, a respectable royal face that would lend legitimacy to his conquest. He chose Maximilian. The offer was presented to Maximilian with a carefully curated lie. He was told that the Mexican people had voted for him in a plebiscite and were crying out for a monarch to save them from chaos. In reality, the vote had been a sham, conducted under the shadow of French bayonets. Maximilian, driven by a mix of genuine idealism and a desperate need to find his place in history, hesitated. His brother, Franz Joseph, was skeptical and forced Maximilian to renounce his rights to the Austrian throne before leaving. It was a cold farewell. Maximilian was trading his safety and his heritage for a dream that had been manufactured in Paris. In 1864, Maximilian and Charlotte arrived at the port of Veracruz. They expected flowers, cheering crowds, and the keys to the city. Instead, they were met with silence and the oppressive heat of a yellow fever-infested coast. The Mexican people didn't see a savior, they saw an invader. As they traveled toward Mexico City, the reality of the country became clear. It was a land of rugged mountains, deep-seated resentment, and a fierce resistance led by the exiled Benito Juárez. Despite the shaky start, Maximilian threw himself into his new role with a dedication that surprised both his allies and his enemies. He didn't want to be a puppet. He fell in love with the landscape of Mexico, its culture, and its people. He moved the royal residence to Chapultepec Castle, which he renovated into a stunning palace that still overlooks Mexico City today. But then, Maximilian did something no one expected. He acted like a liberal. He refused to overturn the laws that Benito Juárez had passed. He upheld the separation of church and state, abolished child labor, and restricted the hours of work for laborers. He even invited his rival, Juárez, to serve as his prime minister. Juárez, a man of iron will, refused, stating that a monarch had no place in a republic. By being too liberal for the conservatives who brought him to power, and too royal for the liberals who fought against him, Maximilian found himself standing alone. He was an emperor without a base. The turning point came in 1865 with the end of the American Civil War. Until that point, the United States had been too distracted to enforce the Monroe Doctrine, which forbade European intervention in the Americas. But with the war over, the U.S. government began funneling weapons to Juarez and his Republican forces. Pressure mounted on Napoleon III. The French public was tired of the expensive, bloody Mexican venture, and the rising power of Prussia was threatening France's own borders. Napoleon realized he had to cut his losses. He decided to withdraw his troops, leaving Maximilian defenseless. This is where the tragedy truly deepens. Charlotte, now known as Empress Carlota, sailed back to Europe to plead for help. She went to Napoleon, who turned his back on her. She went to the Pope, who offered no support. The pressure shattered her mind.
She descended into a state of paranoia and madness from which she would never truly recover, spending the rest of her life locked away in a Belgian castle, talking to a ghost of an emperor. Back in Mexico, Maximilian's advisors urged him to abdicate and flee while the French ships were still in the harbor. But Maximilian, ever the romantic, believed that his honor forbade him from abandoning the men who had fought for him. He refused to leave. As the French columns marched toward the sea, the Republican armies closed in. Maximilian led his remaining loyalist forces to the city of Querétaro. The siege of Querétaro lasted for weeks. The imperial troops were starving, outnumbered, and plagued by disease. Finally, a close aide of Maximilian, Colonel Miguel Lopez, betrayed him, opening the gates of the city.
The trial was a formality. Benito Juárez was a man of principle, and his principle was that Mexico must never again be a playground for European kings. Despite pleas for clemency from the poet Victor Hugo, the Italian patriot Garibaldi, and even the U.S. government, Juárez signed the death warrant.
On the morning of June 19, 1867, Maximilian was taken to the Hill of the Bells. He was calm, almost relieved that the struggle was over. He spoke to his executioners in Spanish, forgiving them and asking them to aim for his heart so his mother could look upon his face one last time. He gave each soldier a gold coin. His final words were, "I forgive everyone, and I ask everyone to forgive me. May my blood, which is about to be shed, be for the good of the country. Long live Mexico, long live independence." The shots rang out, and the Second Mexican Empire died with him. His body was eventually returned to Austria and laid to rest in the imperial crypt in Vienna. But the man who was buried there was a stranger to the people of his homeland. He had died for a country that never asked for him, representing an era of empire that the world was outgrowing. The legacy of Maximilian I is a haunting mystery of what if. He was a man of genuine progressive ideals who could have been a great ruler in a different time or a different place. Instead, he became a cautionary tale about the arrogance of imperialism and the danger of living in a romanticized version of reality. Today, Mexicans remember him with a strange mix of pity and disdain, a footnote in the grand story of their independence, the abandoned emperor who became a victim of the very throne he sought to build. Subscribe